Hey everyone, it's Ivo once again, and I want to welcome everyone back for another action movie review. And this time it's going to be Con Air, or more, Welcome to Con Air, which I do have the Blu-ray. And I would say Con Air is one of my personal favorite action movies of all time. I love this movie to death. It's one of the best action and one of the best 90s action movies ever, the greatest 90s action movies ever, in my opinion. I would say this movie, I would put this movie right up there with this movie, Broken Arrow, GoldenEye, Demolition Man, Cliffhanger, and name it. I would definitely put with The Last Action Hero. I put this movie above The Last Action Hero because so much I enjoyed it. I put this movie in top 10, and when I watched last night, I really had blast watching this movie. Con Air is a pure badass action movie of all time. I love this movie. One of my personal favorite action movies ever. And high energy action, physically enabled, which I agree. They could say it correctly. And this is actually my childhood film. When I was 14 years old, when I went to Sunday school, my neighbor wanted to listen. He wanted to hear my thoughts and reaction on this movie because I never heard before, I never saw before. And then I watched it. I had a blast, so blast that I begged my mom to buy me the VHS tape. And of course, I do have the VHS tape. Still, I do have VHS tape, but yeah, I enjoy. But I am more on the Blu-ray because nowadays I watch more Blu-rays. And watching this movie once again, I would say, like I said, it's a badass film. It's a badass action film. It has the action sequences are spectacular. They are practical done, explosions done for real, martial arts, fight sequences, car chases, plane being hijacked like Die Hard on a plane, which is not the Die Hard, but those are actually my movies, like Broken Arrow, which I think is very underrated. And on IMDb, this movie holds 6.9, but it earned 2 Oscars. It's been nominated for 2 Academy Awards, which deserves it. Directed by Simon West, who also directed The Expendables 2 that I enjoy. But Con Air is my favorite action movie. I love this movie so much. I watched it last night, and I really put it in top 10 because they don't make movies like this anymore. And Nicolas Cage should have done more movies like this. And I know that fans call this movie Nicolas Cage trilogy, The Rock, this movie, and Face Off. And I don't like Face Off. I'm not a fan of that movie. I would rather watch this movie from John Woo, Broken Arrow. This movie, Broken Arrow. Rather watch Broken Arrow than Face Off, which is much better movie in my opinion. But Con Air is one of the best Nicolas Cage movies, better than Face Off. I'll put this movie anytime over Face Off because it's such a great film. And if I forgot to mention, or if I did mention, I apologize because I'm gonna say it again. I will put I will put Con Air with movies like, with 90s action movies like Demolition Man, Cliffhanger, GoldenEye, Broken Arrow, Stone Cold with Brian Bosworth, the boss. What's more, action films, Die Hard The Vengeance, Die Hard 2, I will put Con Air with those action movies, with Cliffhanger, Demolition Man. Those 2 movies that I love to death, GoldenEye, Broken Arrow, those 90s action movies. And Con Air was always my favorite action film. And this is the reason why I became a Nicolas Cage fan, why I begged my mom when she was still alive, when I was 14 years old, to buy me The Rock and Face Off, because they were all released together with Con Air. And Con Air is one of the best action films in my opinion. I speak to myself, but yes, Con Air is best action film. And high energy action, physically enabled, I actually do agree with them, I forgot to mention Predator 2 is also up there, on RoboCop 2, more Predator 2, But I put this movie in my top 10 now because as a kid, like I said, it's really fun to visit those 90s action films or those 80s action films like Lethal Weapon, that I saw as a kid, or Roadhouse, which I already reviewed, before I got the poster. Or Die Hard films, Rambo films, It's really joy to watch those movies, and Con Air is a fun action film. It's like everything's practical done, no CGI, no bullshit. I mean, they don't make movies like Con Air nowadays, Yeah, like this is the bag, but pure badass. And I know that John Cusack hates this film. He hated so much that he refused to be interviewed. It's really a shame. Would really like to hear his thoughts on it, but he hated it for some reason. But I enjoy his character. I'll say this is actually his best movie, in my opinion. Sorry, John Cusack, but I don't like your movies except Con Air. So I apologize, but I would say Wes Marshall, Vince Lycan was one of your best characters you ever played, you ever played. And I know you hated it. That's fine, But I love this movie to death. It's a phenomenal, kick-ass action film. It's a badass action film. It's one of my favorite 90s action films, my personal favorite action film. And Nicolas Cage's favorite movie of mine, which I love this movie to death. And like I said, Cliffhanger, Demolition Man, those two movies, Broken Arrow, GoldenEye from the 90s, even Stone Cold. I will put all of them, very high on my list. And I did Con Air. And the story talks about a former Army Ranger after serving his time in prison for a fight resulted in death, finds himself on a prison plane that has been skyjacked by other convicts aboard. And like the story which says on the cover, from the hitmaking producer The Rock and Crimson Tide comes the hard-hitting blockbuster Con Air, starring Academy Award winner Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, and John Malkovich. A prison parole on his way to freedom faces impossible odds when the maximum security transfer plane is skyjacked by the most vicious criminals in the country, led by the infamous murdered Cyrus the Virus Grissom. Buckle up and hang on tight as explosive high-fly action soars to new heights and delivers high-caliber motion picture entertainment. It's been released by Touchstone Pictures release. It's only 1 hour and 55 minutes long, which is fast-paced. The pacing is fast. It's non-stop action. I mean, I miss this kind of movies. I also love Nicolas Cage's mullet. I love his mullet, his long hair, his mullet. Nicolas Cage nowadays sleepwalking. He's exhausted. His direct-to-video movies nowadays suck. I don't even watch his movies nowadays because it's so bad. But he should have done more this kind of action movies, Directed by Simon West, the Expendables 2. Those kind of action movies he showed, and people call it Con Air his favorite movies. He did a trilogy, but The Rock and Con Air enjoy. Face Off, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I enjoy this movie from John Woo, Broken Arrow, Hard Boiled, The Killer, A Better Tomorrow 2, Paycheck. Those movies I enjoy, and because I don't enjoy or like Hard Target, I got a dislike. Or because I enjoy Hard Boiled, The Killer more, I got a dislike, which is unfair, in my opinion, But for Nicolas Cage, who did with the John Woo movie, I would rather choose this movie, Con Air. Con Air is his best action film. I even watched this movie with my friend 5 years ago. We watched it together, and I love Con Air. Even as a kid, I enjoyed that, so much that I even bought the VHS myself, So yeah. So I even bought VHS myself, But let's go in the open scene. A honorable discharged Army Ranger played by Nicolas Cage. He plays Cameron Poe. He's honorably discharged Army Ranger Sergeant from combat deployments during Operation Desert Storm. He returns after serving time in the army as an army ranger, he's now finally discharged and he returns home. And after serving long time in the Desert Storm, as an army ranger, he finally returns home to his wife, Trejo, played by Monica Potter. That was actually her first role in the movie. She never did a movie before. She did a few episodes before she did this movie. But yeah, and finally he returns to Mobile, Alabama, which I think that Nicolas Cage, he even trained and prepared for this role. He also, I think he went himself to Alabama to get his accent, like he's from Alabama. And he goes finally in this bar and he sees his wife. Damn, I forgot that song. I don't know live without you. I think was Wanda Shepherd. I don't wanna live without you. But yeah, I enjoyed that song too. And of course, yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer, also produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, which I forgot to mention. Finally, Cameron Poe, Army Ranger, after serving time in the army, during the Operation Desert Storm, he returns home to Mobile, Alabama, in this bar, to his wife. She's a waitress, Trisha Poe. And while he wants to dance with her, there are a few guys in the bar, regular customers. And one of them, I think, is Kevin Gage, who also played Ving Rhames in Heat 995. He played Heat, Ving Rhames. I think it's Kevin Gage. Because the regular customer, and he's also a little drunk, he says, I will give half of my life for this piece of ass, and he goes and starts harassing Cameron Poe and his wife Trisha, and Cameron tries to be polite and ask, honey, do you know this gentleman? He tries to be polite, like a gentleman. He learned, in the army he learned. He wasn't a tough guy, and of course, I love when the patron in the bar says, Soldier Dick, why don't you buy me one of my friends a couple rounds, And Trisha says, Cameron, he's not worth it. And I love when the guy, says chicken shit. Because of pussies like that, we lost Vietnam. I love that. Because of pussies like that, we lost Vietnam. Love that. And I love when Trisha says, I thought for a while you were that guy again. and of course, Cameron says, yeah, I was, but I changed, and they go now after the rain, they go home, on the parking lot, and the customer, the drunk, and his two bodies shows up, and they attack Cameron Poe, and Cameron uses his martial arts. When Kevin Gage's character shows up a knife, Cameron Poe grabs like a little weapon. He grabs and stabs him in self-defense. And because the attacker has been dead. It got tough. It was self-defense. Because he has a lawyer, he admitted the guilt. He admitted. He told him like you can get 4 years, but you serve only 2 years. And because he admits his guilt, and he got a life sentence from 7 to 10 years, and he serves 8 years for a manslaughter. A manslaughter that was actually in the self-defense. And the lawyer screwed him over. He served 8 years. And while he's in prison, his hair grew up, and you have Nicolas Cage with mullet, Nicolas Cage's mullet, which is awesome. And while he's in prison, he meets this guy, another fellow inmate, Bobby Odell, and of course they became friends. And now after 8 years, on July 14, which is actually his daughter, because he did not saw his daughter and his wife for 8 years, he went and he was writing the letter, and he was through pen pal, and after 8 years, finally, he's now on a freedom, and I love when he shows up, from handcuffed, and I just love the character, I just love this movie. I just love the acting performance by Nicolas Cage when he shows up out of the bus, and Garfelson takes his picture of his daughter, and I love it. They both argue each other and says, somehow I'm gonna get this picture back. We want to tell me what to do? Nah, I'm nuts. I just love this badass action movie, man. I just love this movie, man. It just speaks to me. It just speaks to me, this movie, You want to tell me how to do my job? Nah, nuts. You heard me. I love that, Or when we see Rachel Ticotin from Total Recall as guard Sally Bishop, and she goes and ma'am is actually a dog in a Disney. I love that, But yeah, so now all the prisoners, they're actually gonna be moved to another federal prison. I don't know, probably because they're actually changing the laws, or maybe they're remodeling the prison. Who knows? But they go now into a different penitentiary, different maximum prison penitentiary, and they go in this airplane, Jailbird, and I wrote somewhere down. I wrote down the model for the plane, but I somehow can't find it. I found it. Jailbird, Fairchild C-123 provider, which was an aircraft. They go into this aircraft, and while they're actually an aircraft, there are actually three very interesting characters. And the first one, which I wrote somewhere down, the character, the first one was actually William Bedford, aka Billy Bedlam. He's a mass murderer. He played by Nick Chinlund. Nick Chinlund, he was also in the X-Files as Donnie Foster. He was in season 2 and season 7. And Nick Chinlund plays William Bedford, aka Billy Bedlam, mass murderer. He caught his wife in bed with another man, left her alone, drive 4 towns over to his wife's family house, killed her parents, brothers, sisters, even her dog. And that's his certain life. The next character is of course Nathan Jones, aka Diamond Dog, played by Ving Rhames, former general of the Black Gorillas. And of course the third one is Cyrus Grissom, aka Cyrus the Virus, played by John Malkovich. And of course, he did it all: kidnapping, robbery, murder, extortion. 39 years old, 25 spent in institution. He killed 11 inmates, created 3 riots, escaped twice. And he brags that he killed more men than cancer. And these three prisoners, they're actually now sent into maximum prison through the Jailbird, to the convict planes, which they're actually moving. And one of the men is also DA agent Willie Sims, played by Jesse Zuniga, who goes undercover. In the Carson City, when the plane lands, there's actually a drug dealer Francisco Cindino, who seems has to go undercover to get closer to find the drug cartel, and the operation has been also dealing by DAA agent Duncan Malloy, played by Colm Meaney. Colm Meaney was also one of the bad guys in Under Siege. So Colm Meaney plays agent DAA Duncan Malloy, who works with U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin. And no one except Vince Larkin knows that actually Agent Sims is undercover DA agent in the which he carries the gun. And of course, Larkin says no one carries the gun. And of course, the agent says, Malloy says, so if he doesn't have, with a weapon, he's not going to board. And Larkin says that he's not going to board. And of course, Malloy gives him a gun. And while they actually, the flight takes off, of course, Cyrus Virus the Grissom, Nathan Jones, and of course another inmate, Pinball Parker, I think was Arsenal. I think he was Arsenal robbery, which he got caught. He somehow smuggles through his mouth a gasoline and a matches, and he caused his inmate into a fire, and he lands and he plans to escape. And now of course Cyrus Virus, the Grissom, Nathan Jones, and there's a riot in the plane, and because Cameron Poe is handcuffed and can do anything, the plane's now been taken by inmates. It's actually been skyjacked by inmates. And one of the pilots shows up with a gun. Cyrus the Grissom kills him and grabs the gun, and he takes the in charge the airplane. And because now, of course, because there's now all the guards are now been captured and they're now in prison, and of course, Cameron Poe is actually very concerned about his friend Baby Odell because he's a diabetic, and during the fight scene, in the plane, all the needles for the insulin, they're actually broke. And that's actually realistic. Before you tell me it's realistic, my dad is diabetic. He's now in a nursery home, and he went last year in nursery home, against my will. They take my dad away, otherwise he would die, he would die. So that was realistic. Mykelti Williamson from the Fugitive TV series, he played Baby Odell, and that was realistic. He was dying because he didn't got insulin. He's diabetic. They broke all the needles. And now because in Carson City they're waiting 6 men, Cameron Poe wants to leave the plane, but with his friend. His friend is sick and he's dying. He's diabetic. He didn't get the needle, and because they actually spared white men, not Baby Odell. So Cameron Poe decides to stay in the plane. And of course, Agent Sims grabs a gun. He goes and grabs. He grabs Pinball Parker as a human shield, while Cyrus, grabs him. Cyrus grabs grabs guard Sally Bishop, played by Rachel Ticotin, as a shield. And because Cameron tries to he tries to neutralize the problem, and he tries to convince Sims to give up. He's outnumbered, but he doesn't listen. And because it came very very personal, he gets killed. He gets Sims gets killed, gets shot by Cyrus the Grissom. And now because Cameron has no choice, he has to stay on a plane. He finds the recorder, and he puts the prison guard Falzone. He actually puts him in the cellmates in the inmates clothes, and also puts the recorder so that they're gonna try to alert someone in the Carson City. And while they land in Carson City, of course, the pilot goes, is taken off, and it's been replaced by Swamp Thing. Six new inmates shows up in the plane. One of them is also Brandon Kelly. He was he was previously in the Rock. he played Private Cox in The Rock, but he also played Conrad in this movie, and he was also in the TV show Acapulco Hit, which after one season it was cancelled. And yeah, while they also found that Pinball Parker finds that transporter and puts on another aircraft, which he turns out, Uncle Bob's, and now because Duncan Malloy has been called back, he finds out that the inmates, they took over the plane and they killed his agent. His agent's been killed, and now he's pissed. And now he goes after, and I love Duncan Malloy. I love the character. I also love Vince Larkin. I love both of them. Duncan Malloy, and of course U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin said, since when the DA has now jurisdiction, and of course, like I says, it became my personal. After they kill one of the DA agents. And I promised to find the murder for a justice of sins, and I love that. And they go with the helicopters after the airplane, but they go into Arizona wrong way, while they're actually the airplane who goes, in the Carson City, they're notified that they're actually inmates, and of course, Cyrus Grissom kills one of the guards. They escape with the airplane, and of course, Pinball Parker gets on the airplane but gets killed. During on the aircraft, he gets killed. And now, of course, that's personal because DA with the helicopters, they go after the airplane, but they go wrong way. And while disposing the body, Cameron Poe with Nathan Jones, he finds Pinball, and he uses the pen and writes the message because he heard through the radio U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin, and he puts U.S. Marshal Larkin writes on the Pinball's t-shirt and writes down, they go to Lerner Airfield. They actually not going to Arizona, they go to Lerner Airfield. Lerner Airport Field, which is the next stop that they go there. And while Pinball Parker falls down, on the car, we see this older couple. That's Don S. Davis from Stargate, CG1 TV show, in the car, and Pinball lands on his roof, and I love it during the stop, there's like, pigeon shit on his windshield. I love that, such a pure badass action film. And when Larkin, when Larkin is not, they did not take him to the Arizona, and of course Duncan wants to shoot the plane, but Vince Marshall, he wants to prevent that his plane gets shot down and the guards being killed because they're his men, he's responsible for them. And he finds out that there's someone with them because prison guard Falzone actually said that inmate Cameron Poe, he gave him the recorder, and another thing was that he's a free man and he doesn't leave the plane, which makes no sense. He could have left the plane, but he didn't. And he also put the recorder, from Sim's recorder to Agent Falzone. So that means that actually he's an ally, It still makes no sense why he doesn't leave the plane. So while Larkin is interviewing Trisha Poe and his daughter, Casey, his 8-year-old daughter, he tries to figure out why Cameron Poe doesn't leave the plane, why he doesn't leave the plane, why it's so he thinks he's an ally, and because there was a message for him, there was actually a message where they going, and he also, Trisha doesn't know why Cameron doesn't leave the plane, because he's a free man, he could leave the plane in Carson City, but he didn't, so that makes mystery, and during the flight escape, a few guards, they found actually in the Grissom cell, they actually found the hole, and all the planes, which they plan, which Grissom is actually planning an escape, which he did escape. He took over. He hijacked the airplane, and he's planning an escape with a jailbird. And one of the guards has opened the box, which says, "Don't open. There's a practical, real explosion." Real practical explosion, just like in Demolition Man, a real practical gun explosion. So that was awesome. A real explosion, my opinion, badass explosion. So that was pure badass in my opinion. So of course, when his interview, Trisha says that Cameron waited 8 years to see his daughter. He did not want that his daughter sees him in the prison. So he waited 8 years. So while he finds a message, they actually go to Lerner. They actually go to Lerner airport field. So he goes and asks that he needs a plane, and because none of the planes is working or they don't have fuel, they say I have to be in 50 minutes in Lerner airport field. And one of the pilots says, if you have a fast car, and he goes and steals, Duncan Malloy's fast car, which I love that, he steals his Corvette. I wrote somewhere down, it was 1967 Chevrolet Corvette. He steals his Chevrolet Corvette. In the open scene, when the Duncan Malloy shows up with Chevrolet, and of course, Larkin says, "Beautiful car." He says, "Beautiful. Sunsets are beautiful. This is fucking spectacular." I love that the man that loves his car. Duncan's Corvette was awesome. He steals Duncan's Corvette, goes to the Lerner airfield, and they almost crashed. And Vince Larkin beats the plane, and he finds their sabotage. And of course, after they landed, there was a crash. They landed, and of course, Cameron Poe, when they landed, Cameron Poe tries, he tries to take his friend up, but he can't move, because he's infected, he's sick, he can't walk, he can't move him, because so he decides to find the needles, to get him off the plane, him and Sally Bishop. He can't take that, I forgot to mention, but there's also Danny Trejo from Heat and Machete Kills, or Machete. He's also, Danny Trejo played numerous bad guys, and he's Johnny 23, which means he's a rapist. He raped 23 women, and he wants to rape. He's a rapist, and he wants to rape Sally Bishop. And of course, I love when Poe shows up and says, "What are you doing?" And of course when when Johnny 23 says, "Who the hell think you are, ugly old day," he punches him. I love that. I forgot to mention, or when Willie Bedford Bellum says, "What's looking, punk? Your cage. I just admire your cage." "Oh, that I just admire your cage. What's looking, punk?" "What you looking, punk?" I love that line, "What you looking, punk?" "Oh, nothing, just admire your cage." I love that, Oh my god, I love this movie. Such a fun, badass action film. This movie's badass, They don't make action movies like this anymore, So after after everything, on the the Leonard Airport field, Vince Larkin tries to find out how to catch them. He calls the cavalry, the army, the SWAT teams, the soldiers, which they shows up, to catch those inmates. And while Cameron Poe, he goes around the field, he's looking for the needle, and before he goes in the needle, he sees Nathan Jones, who tries to kill the inmates. One of the pilots almost crashed, and they said, "What the fuck you guys doing?" And he runs. And I love when Cyrus Gleason says, "I hope he likes sand," and Johnny 23 is like laughing in his hands, muchacho fires everyone, and of course I love that, and of course now they go Cameron Poe, and of course Vince Larkin finds people dead and finds out there's a double cross. And in the airport, in the next airport, when Cameron, he tries to find the needles, he gets caught by Cedino's men, and one of the men, the guy who played Chico in The Running Man, I don't know the character, but the guy uses a gun, and says, if you're gonna shoot, there's gonna be over 50 angry inmates, or 30 angry inmates, and he puts the silencer on the gun, and of course, I wrote down the lines for Cameron Poe. I wrote down for Cameron Poe's, I know I wrote something down, yeah, the guy puts the silencer, and Cameron Poe says, "Well, hooray for the sounds of fucking silence," and of course Larkin shows up, there are like 3 guys, and Larkin shows up and says, "Freeze!" And Cameron Poe, like a pure badass, he punches, uses all his martial arts, like a badass, uses a spin kick, punches one of the guys in the fucking head, Nicolas Cage really had to train. No stunt double, all stunts. Nicolas Cage did his all stunts. That's stunt for real. Like a pure badass. He punches, breaks all the 3 guys. 3 guys, like a pure badass he is. He kicks them all, Use a spin kick, fucking the head, And he goes like a fast, grabs the gun, and Larkin puts the gun down, and of course he says, and of course he tells him, that's actually it was you who actually notified me, and says yes, and he told him, I understand why you should leave the plane, and he says, I know, but I can't leave when my friend is in trouble. I'm not leaving the plane because of my friend, There are people in trouble. I'm not gonna do that, And I love that. And of course, he says, and of course, Vince Larkin tells him that he talked to Trisha Poe, and he saw Casey, and he said he saw my daughter Casey, and he said that I can't leave, he says I can't leave I can't go and I can't leave, I can't leave people in the trouble, and of course he gives a message to his wife and daughter, and he says, Vince Larkin says, "I will, what are you gonna do for me?" And what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna save the fucking day. I love that. What do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna save the fucking day. And I love that, Cameron Poe is a real hero, real action hero. And when the National Guard shows up, of course they find out, and the Cyrus and his men find out. Now they grab all the guns, the rifles, M16 rifles, shotguns, and they surround it. And when the army shows up, they start fighting. There's a battle fire scene, and Vince Larkin, played by John Cusack, like a pure badass. He goes, with that no, first when the airplane Francisco Cedino and with his pilot try to escape, Ving Rhames stops him with an iron crane, puts the fucking iron crane on the fucking airplane, and the airplane explodes, and Cedino, and when Cyrus Cedino, that's my fucking plane, and of course I forgot to mention, when Cyrus says, the last time who told me to trust him, he burned in fire, or when they take the inmates out the airplane, after they move the airplane, says Poe says, yeah, I'm gonna help you, that's more arms helps, that my dad teach me. And of course when says Cyrus, you know what my father teach me? Nothing. I love that, and of course when there's an explosion, now the Lerner airfield, Lerner airport field became actually a battleground, which there's a fires, explosions, and of course from the Swamp Thing, Cedino shows up, all bloody, and says, we're gonna get you. So he grabs from something smoke and says, and I love it, Cedino, sigh, Anora, throws the fucking smoke, there's a fucking explosion, pure badass, Cedino burns in a flame, a pure badass explosion. Such a cool, such an awesome, spectacular, phenomenal, kick-ass, badass action film ever, Sai, Anora, I love that, I mean, John Malkovich's best performance ever, ever the character he played. Like a pure badass this film is, and of course there's the Lerner airfield, airfield became some battleground, and John Cusack's character Vince Larkin, he goes in this working truck, and he puts the working truck and says behind the car, he says them, and of course he also tells Duncan Malloy and his men that they're actually Lerner airfield, and they did not believe him, and they go way too late back, and of course Cameron Poe, like a pure badass he is, he grabs the car, finds the needles on the fire truck, he goes back to the airplane, while Johnny 23 goes in the plane, tries to rape Sally Bishop, and I love it when Cameron Poe shows up with police car, and he ties with the rope the airplane, so never they can't go anywhere. He ties the rope. He's a real hero. Goes to the airplane, and while Johnny 33 tries to rape Sally Bishop, and Cage, like a pure badass, he grabs him. Don't treat women like that. And he goes, punches him like a pure badass he is, and chains him. And Sally goes, boom. She kicks him, and spits on him. I love that. And when they try to escape, he gives the needle to Baby Odell, but already Cyrus and his men are now in the airplane, and the Grissom finds out that someone tied them up with a rope, so he fires with the M16 and destroys the rope, and while they take off with the airplane, the rope catches Malloy's car, and the car falls out, and one of the agents says, didn't you park the car? Did you park the car? And Malloy says, I think I did, and in front of his nose falls the car down. And I love it when Malloy says, when there's someone, so you fuck! I love that. Colm Meaney's best performance ever. So now in the airplane they're actually singing the song Sweet Home Alabama, and I forgot to mention, but Steve Buscemi is in this movie as Garland Green, who I wrote his character down. Garland Green, he's a mass murderer. He butchered 30 people. The Marinette Mangler. He's Garland Green. He killed and butchered 30 people. And he also one of the men that talks to also that he goes and talks to Cameron Poe. And I forgot to mention, but Billy Bedlam finds out, that by the personal staff, that Cameron Poe is actually double crossing them, and he's already free. So during the fight scenes, says die punk, and Cameron Poe like a pure badass. I love the fights again. It's a great choreography. Goes, kicks him and stabs him accidentally. The guy gets killed down, knocks down. Put the bunny in the box. Put the bunny in the box. I love this movie so much, I love this fucking movie. This movie is awesome. This movie is my movie. Those kind of movies. And during when plane takes off, the plane goes and takes off. And, the plane goes and takes off, and now, of course, Cyrus the Virus Grissom, while the army, while Malloy and Larkin with the helicopters, 2-3 helicopters goes after them, almost track them down, and Cyrus Grissom finds out there's a traitor in there, and he starts to suspect Poe, that Poe is actually one of the traitors, because someone notified the authority in Carson City, someone ties them with the rope, their plane, and someone killed poor Billy Bedlam. And then they come, gee, I know who this is, and I love that's kind of funny scene, but he grabs somebody and says, he's gonna blow his body, I love that. And when the helicopter shows up, he fires at them, they made, Cyrus Grissom fires at them. And of course, I love when Baby Odell shows up and says, no, it was me, and of course, Cameron says, no, he's just talking trash. Pretty smart, bitch. And he goes and he's been shot, in the stomach. He's been shot, and Cameron says, "Cheese," in the right, Jesus, right, and says, "My diet comes July 14." They move, and when the helicopter shows up, Cyrus fires at them, then starts firing. And now Cameron, now Baby says, in his arm, he says that he doesn't believe God. And Cameron says, "I'm gonna show, I'm gonna prove that he exists." He goes like a pure badass. He goes, this guy grabs the bottle, blows the bottle, it's freeze, beach boy, and Cameron like a pure badass, he punches him, uses martial arts, kicks his ass, and Brendan Kelly goes to the gun, fires him in the shoulder, and Cameron like a pure badass, boom, like a rock, boom, punches his ass. And also this guy, Sally can dance, he closes the door, Sally can dance, jumps on him, and he goes and boom, punches out, and he goes to something, Landiston, what's the fucking Cyrus, I'm the new captain now, Landiston, and they go into Las Vegas, and of course Cameron says, don't fight, who are the fellas? Cameron Poe took the plane, I love that, or when Malloy tries to shoot that down, the plane, and I love when Larkin goes in front of him, and he says, what the hell are you doing, stupid bastard? I love that, I love this fucking movie, man. I love such a badass, cool action movie. I love this movie, man. I love this movie. And now Cameron Poe takes the airplane, and they go in Las Vegas. They crashed in the Las Vegas, I love this movie, man. They crashed in Las Vegas like a pure badass they are. Johnny 23 gets killed, and also when Cyrus fires with F-16, the doors, boom, and he throws the gun, and Sally Bishop grabs he can't in the cockpit, he can't go in the cockpit, and Sally Bishop grabs the rifle and says, Cyrus, what? And punches him, he's unconscious. I love that, and the movie lands, and now the guards they're safe, and Cameron, he saved Baby, he saved Sally Bishop, but meantime, Cyrus, Nathan Jones, and the Swamp Team are escaping. They're still in the they go and they're stealing, they're actually stealing the fireman truck, and they escape. And before that, finally, one of U.S. Marshals agents, she brings, she goes and she brings Casey and of course Trisha, she brings them, and of course when Sally Bishop says next time takes the bus, that's actually reference to Speed, played by Keanu Reeves. That's reference to Speed. And Con Air is such a cool, badass action film. And yeah, they go, and now Larkin sees Cyrus Virus the Grissom and Nathan Jones escaping, and they go, they both steal motorcycle, which I wrote down. They go and use the motorcycle. I think was I wrote down I think was Kawasaki, I'm not sure. I wrote somewhere down it was Kawasaki KZ 1000P motorcycle. They now Larkin and Poe both use police motorcycles, go after the fire truck, and they start the fire truck, and while Cyrus fires with his gun on them, and of course Vince Larkin grabs his Glock, and of course Cam says, does that work? And Larkin says, yeah, so let's shoot this piece of shit, and they're like shooting, and of course Cameron Poe goes and drags himself on the ladder, climbs, and while Cyrus the Grissom grabs a stick and tries to stab Poe, but Poe breaks the stick, stabs in the leg, and the guy falls down, like a pure badass scene. Real stunt double, real stunt team, real stunt double, stunt performance, real stunt performance, and that stunt scene was not used. That was Nicolas Cage did his own stunt. That was done for real. They don't make action movies like this, man. They don't. And of course, the motorcycle from Cameron Poe lands directly at Jones and kills him in a pure badass explosion. And of course, this guy, Cyrus grabs Fire Hussein. He also hits with the water two of the police officers, and of course, Larkin also climbs on the fire truck, and he uses an axe, makes a hole in the roof, and says to Swati, stops this thing, and Swati says, yeah, should do that, and of course he uses the Fire Hussein and makes a vet, and the fire truck, lands, crash, and explodes, and of course they both jump off the fire truck, and and I love when in the airplane, when of course Cyrus is the next, it's gonna hear your case is gonna smell my breath, and I love when on the end, Cameron says, when the switchblade, when the motor rotor switchblade shows up, in the airplane on the fire truck, I love when Cameron says, you're not gonna come near my daughter, buckle up, and he uses handcuffs, chains him, in the fire truck, with something crashes, and of course in the roof bridge, and of course Cyrus Grissom lands on the tool work and gets killed, he gets killed, and of course Cameron Poe jumps, and that's actually a stunt double, but that's not a dummy. It was done for real, because that wasn't a dummy. It was a stunt double jumping, and Cameron Poe finally, he saved everything. Then he goes reunited with his wife and his daughter. And I love the song, I Don't Know Wanna Live Without You. That beautiful song. I think it was by Wanda Shepherd. I read it last night that she was 14 years old the time, but she kind of, her voice was like older. But I love that song. That's a really special song, you know, better than Sweet Home Alabama. It's actually better, I Don't Wanna Live Without You. I love that song. I think it was Trish one. I'm not sure that pop singer, but she was great, And the movie also Garen Green, he survives and he's actually in one of the casinos, and the guy says, "Is it lucky?" And Garen Green says, "Yes, he does." He survives. And I forgot to mention, Garen Green goes to the airfield and he meets this little girl, and she asks him, "Are you sick?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm sick. Do you use medicine?" "There's no medicine for me." And she teaches him a song. He has the whole world in his hand. He has the whole world. And I love that song too, And I love that Garen Green didn't do nothing. He did not kill that little girl, In fact, he butchered 30 people. He did not kill the little girl. He does not kill kids. And I love that, That's a decent. And the movie ends. And I love the action sequence. I love the music score. Mark Mancina supposed to be in the music. He's supposed to be in the music score, but he what was that from? He had to leave for another movie, but I can't remember. I think Mark Mancina did a music score for this movie, but he had to leave because of his other project, and I forgot the movie. Well, it doesn't matter. But anyway, Trejo Rabin, who did a music score for Cliffhanger from Rennie Harlan, did a music score, and I love the music score by Trejo Rabin. They both are credits, but Trejo Rabin did the music score. Mark Mancina had to leave for a different project that time, and I forgot which movie it was already. Well, it doesn't matter, but I'm not perfect. I'm sorry, not perfect. I love the action sequences. My favorite scene is actually the fire truck when Cameron Post is climbing under the ladder and stabs with a stick Cyrus the Greaser. That's my favorite scene. Another personal favorite scene is actually on the airfield, on the Lerner airfield, the battle scenes, when the convicts have been killed. And Poe grabs a rope and ties the airplane and kicks Johnny 23's ass, he saves the girl, which I love that, he saves his friend, saves his girl. He's a hero. I love the fight scenes in the airplane, like this guy breaks the bottle and says, "Freeze, little bitch boy," and Cage grabs, punches him and uses his martial arts. Another favorite scene of mine. And this guy shoots him in the arm, and the Cage goes, punches him like a pure badass he is. That's another favorite scene of mine, He grabs and punches Sally, and that's awesome. That's great in my opinion. And of course, great direction by Simon West. This guy was great. Great direction by Simon West. Best performance by Nicolas Cage. Best performance by John Cusack. Best villain, Cyrus the Greaser by John Malkovich. They don't make action movies like this anymore, And the cast, also beside John Cusack, John Malkovich, Nicolas Cage, there are also Colm Meaney as Agent Duncan Malloy, DA Duncan Malloy, his best performance, better than in Another Siege, in my opinion. Mykelti Williamson, Baby Odell, friend and inmate from Cameron Poe, best performance. Renoli Santiago, Sally Cadence, great performance. Dave Chappelle, Pinball Parker, great performance. Rachel Ticotin from Total Recall, Gar Sally Bishop, great performance. Steve Austin, Gar Falzon, I love him, great performance. Steve Buscemi, best performance. Garen Green, decent performance. He doesn't kill the little girl, and he didn't do anything. He claimed he butchered the people. In this movie, he didn't kill anyone, so that's another decent. Why this movie is so decent, Then Trejo, Johnny 23 rapist, gets his ass kicked. I love that, MC Gainey, Swamp Thing, best performance. Jesse Borrego, Francisco Cindino, good performance. Jesse Zuniga, T.J. Wilson's good performance. Danny Trejo, great performance as Johnny 23 rapist. Rachel Ticotin, great performance. The cast is perfect. The direction is perfect. The action sequences are perfect done. It's practical done. No CGI, no shaky cam. It's perfectly done. The action sequences, everything this movie delivers. It's one of my personal favorite movies. It's a phenomenal action film ever. Con Air is my movie. It's my movie. It's my personal favorite movie and one of the best badass 90s action film. Badass 90s action film, my opinion. Yeah, they also used they're actually models for the jailbird, and of course, yeah, they used they actually used Fairchild C-23 provider aircraft, which was used for flying sequences. So in another model was used Fairchild 123K provider used for crash scenes. They used kind of a lot of models. The budget was $75 million. Worldwide made $224 million, which was a huge hit at that time in the 90s. Nominated for 2 Oscars, it deserves it. And of course, it was Monica Potter, great performance. Trisha Poe, great performance. Landry Albright, she played Casey Poe. Good performance. I love Monica Potter's first performance. She was also Along Came Spider, which is a sequel to Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman. She was she was a villain at that time, so she did a good job as a wife, the first time. And I did wrote the filming dates somewhere. The filming dates was July 1st, 1996 till 28 September 1996. Was released 6 June 1997. So it already did hit 30-year anniversary, back in 2017. But yeah, what can I say? I love the character Cameron Poe, ex-army ranger, now a convict. He served for a manslaughter for a man that he killed in self-defense for 8 years. And while he's now free, he goes with the jailbird. He travels with the jailbird still as an inmate, even though he's released from prison. And when the airplane's been hijacked by inmates, he's the only one that can that saves the fucking day. He's the only one that can save the fucking day. He's still not a character like this movie, like this character, John McClane. He's not that character like John McClane in Die Hard. But Cameron Poe is one of my favorite action heroes of all time. Nicolas Cage's favorite movie, best movie. And yeah, it's 1 hour 2 minutes long review. But thanks for watching. That's my movie review on Con Air. Badass 90s action film. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you next time on another movie review. And the next movie review is gonna be more shorter. But thanks so much. I'm out. Peace. Take care.